What's up, YouTube? How you doing? It's Just James. Saturday the 3rd, a little bit after 2. It's a beautiful day. Um, and I just want to ask a question. And this is to not all white people, because I don't think all white people are necessarily racist. And my honest opinion is I think that there are a lot of unracist white people, but there is a greater number of not racist white people, but white people who fall in this place of it doesn't really affect me, so I don't care. And that's not necessarily racism, it's apathy. But because they are white and because of their apathy, they can be turned racist very easily because they've never experienced it. They don't know anyone who's experiencing it. Their world isn't shaped by it. So they're like, I don't care, I don't have to look into it. But for the ones who identify as, alt-right or, I'm not even going to say full Republican, even though I think nowadays, at least in our current year of 2025, within the last decade, if you're a Republican, you're probably leaning more towards that far-right ideology of things. And those people that believe in white supremacy, I was like, doesn't it ever get exhausting? Doesn't it ever get tired? Like, do you wake up every day happy and energized to be a white supremacist? Do you wake up every day going, man, I can't wait to go out here and tell everyone why white people are better than everyone else? Does this really bring you joy? Now, I'm sure it probably does bring some people joy, but I'm like, if it brings a lot of you joy, why do you get so upset when people call you out on it? Like, why do you get so upset when someone says you're a white supremacist or calls you racist? And I was like, isn't that a little bit weird? I was like, if this is something that you believe so hard in your heart and you feel it's right, why do you get so upset when people call you out and tell you what you exactly are? When someone calls you a racist, most people get white, especially white people, I'm not a racist. Now you have some coming out because, the orange tea and the Musk have made that to a degree socially acceptable. But reality is, y'all still know it's not necessarily right, which is why y'all still try to hide it. You want to know why? Because you make posts where you hide your face or you go under a anonymous name. You use different names. You don't want to put yourself under your ideas. You want people to think it's an anonymous thought. And then when I think about that, I'm like, if you think this is true, why hide your identity? I was like, in the history of the world, I was like, mostly, at least in America, most white supremacists only have to worry about going to jail or losing their job. They don't have to worry about being lynched. I was like, name one time in history where a white supremacist ever had to fear being lynched by a minority for speaking their mind. The worst y'all had to do was lose your job. But the reality is that there would be another white supremacist down the line that will hire you for your ideologies. Of course, you can't police law enforcement. How many law enforcement officers have been caught doing evil shit? They get fired from their job, and they end up quietly in another police precinct somewhere else in the United States. Now, they are known to be white supremacists. They are known to be evil and wrong doing to minorities. But the worst they get is a paid vacation or an unpaid vacation and then a transfer to another precinct. And then they get to move here quietly. We just watched a video. They just put this out a couple days ago of an inmate being beaten to death by 13 law enforcement officers. One handcuffed black man was being assaulted by 13 armed white men in prison. You mean to tell me this man was that scary to y'all? You brought him in like not even a human. If you watch the video, they carried this man into an infirmary and they carried him in like he was already a dead body. Like he was an animal that y'all went out and hunt. You carried him in like he was a deer off the hunt. He was handcuffed. You stuck cloth in his mouth and proceeded to punch him in the face to keep him quiet because you knew you were going to assault him. That's evil. Your actions tell you you know it's wrong and you still do it. You know you couldn't turn off your body cams, but you turned off the mics. If you were right, if you believe you were right, why would you hide anything? Some of the people in this video were watching along and smiling. So I ask you, what makes you superior? When you say y'all are superior, superior people don't do those type of things. I mean, we can look to fiction. I was like, and I'll give you an example. So, Darkseid and Superman. Darkseid sees himself truly as superior. Now, don't get me wrong, he's still a villain, but he truly sees himself as superior. And you want to know why? Because he doesn't hide anything. When Darkseid fights, his hands are behind his back. He honestly believes in his mind he's superior. So when he fights, there's a level of honor he brings to that because he understands to be superior, I have to act a certain way. He doesn't hide his plans. He announces them fully. He doesn't wait for the right time. He tells you what he's going to do and he does it because he honestly believes he's right. When he fights people that he honestly believes are lesser than him, he doesn't elicit backup. He doesn't elicit scare tactics. He legitimately fights them because he really believes he is. Arguably, in the comic book sense, he's a super strong dude. Is he superior to Superman? No. Superman will win. The reality is Superman always holds himself back because he doesn't want to hurt anyone. Another example of a person truly being superior. He realizes how strong he is, he realizes how capable he is, and he realizes how dangerous that is to others around him. So, he holds back his power to honestly protect those he does see as below him. That's a sign of true superiority. What I think you guys don't understand is internally, you feel inferior. You feel guilty for the wrongs that have been done, but you don't want to admit those wrongs because the way you've internalized that is by admitting those wrongs, you would now warrant what you have done to be done to you. You would warrant the evils you've put on people to be put onto you. So your logic is to double down, but you know you're doing it wrong, so you try to hide it, you try to suppress it, you try to keep it in the shadows. And what's amazing is, you know who puts all your shit out? Your own people. Because there are some among you who know it's wrong. There are some among you who understand that this ideology, this thought process is not how you get to a better life. It is not how you get to peace. It is not how you get to happiness. And I guess another question I want to ask is, do y'all even want to be happy? Do white supremacists truly want to be happy? Do they truly want to live a peaceful life? Or is that not what they consider happy? Do you consider being happy just hating on other people? Is that what brings you joy? Because I'm like, I don't really know of any truly happy racists. I know a lot of them that'll smile in your face, but that's not happiness. That's not peace of mind. You know what people do when they're happy and peace of mind? They just live their lives. They mind their own business. That's when you're really happy, you're not going after anyone. When you're truly at peace, you don't attack anyone. Because internally you're truly at peace. You're truly happy. So I'm like, do y'all even want that? What do you just want white people to be at top. But what do you get for that? Do you get happiness? Do you get joy? Do you get peace of mind? Do you get more chaos and destruction? Because here's the thing. Once you eliminate one problem, you know other ones will come up. Think about it. There is no oh, we eliminate all the minorities and then everything's cool, because there are going to be people among you who are going to be like, nah, that ain't cool. And what I find is even more funny is there's a lot of y'all who are in the LGBTQ plus community, and y'all still hold on to white supremacy. Like, y'all know full well if y'all got rid of all the black and brown people, y'all would be next on the chopping block. Pardon me, the chopping block, because that don't line up with your masculinity now, does it? But y'all still double down. It's weird and silly, and I feel sad for y'all. And I'll segue this into something else. This is more for black people than for white folks, and that is, this is why I, as a black man, will never subscribe to any religion on this planet ever again. Why, even though I may not be sure of a higher power, that I may feel there may be one, that I honestly believe in my heart of hearts and soul of souls that that God or entity is not any of the religions that exist on this planet. And I know the vast majority of black folks will not agree with me, outright dislike me, hate me, whatever, for me saying that if you honestly believe as a minority you are going to find your liberation in this world by subscribing to the religions of your oppressors, you're truly deluding yourself. I understand that there are Ethiopian Christians that exist in the world and that their Christianity outdates a lot of Christianity. But also, y'all ain't subscribing to Ethiopian Christianity. So that's really not a good argument. Y'all are subscribing to Western Christianity, the kind that was brought to you through colonization. The only reason that most Americans, white, black, or whatever, are Catholic or Christian or any denomination of Christianity is because of colonialism, is because of racism. And I always look at black folks funny when they look at me and be like, you need to worship God. And I'm like, I need to read and worship the God of a Bible that was used to oppress me. And somehow you want me to believe that's going to find my salvation? You make yourselves no better than the racist folks. All you do is enable them by giving them another tool. You know what I see, or what I think about when I see really go hard black Christians? I see people that want to be free but don't know how to be, because they are literally wholesale subscribing to the tool that was used to put them in oppression in the first place. You know who came first to Africa? It wasn't the slave ships. It was the missionaries. Right? The first ones were the rollout of colonialism started in the church. Mainly the Church of England, and Portuguese and Spain and Germany. Now, I ain't saying all Germans or all these people are racist. I know that many of them are not. A lot of them speak out and do their best to fight against it. That doesn't take away from the fact that many of their forefathers did believe in it. And the world we live in was shaped by that racist ideology and religious beliefs. I don't care how many times you try to reinterpret the word, because we always do this. If you look at these religious people, when they get confronted with this history, they go, well, we interpret it differently now. I don't care how the hell you spin it, bro. It still leads back to racism, bigotry, colonialism, suppression. I will never subscribe to a religion that endorses the enslavement of other people. That is wrong. There is no way to cut that. And I know there's gonna be people that are gonna try to use that as, okay, well then I should be allowed to feel how to. Listen, you can feel how you want to feel. That'll make it right. Doesn't mean I'm gonna endorse your crazy ideas because they're just as destructive. And I understand there'll never be a utopia. Or at least that's what a lot of people want you to believe. They're like, there's no way to get a utopia. No, there is. It's just not easy. And it doesn't mean you have to kill off every race of people either. It means that we have to come to an understanding of ideas that will lead to the destruction of humanity or the destruction of any particular race that is not, well, I want to say not race, but cultures, as in, because whiteness is a construct. And how do you know this? Because Italians consider themselves white, but they seem to have forgot the history of where, before they were considered white, they were seen as worse than black folks. There are articles in newspapers of the early 1900s, 1800s, when Italians were coming into this country, where they were seen as worse than black folks. But those racist white people at the time said, wait a minute, they don't look much different to us. Why don't we accept them in and we use them to oppress other black folks? Maybe it'll look a lot darker. And they, not all of them, but a lot of them bought into it wholesale. A lot of them. And I don't want to say all of them because I know many Italian people who are not racist. They're great people. They love their culture, but they're not racist people. And you know why? Because they don't treat you racistly. They don't act out in those ways. And you can see it. And I don't believe when people say, I watch what people do. So if you're acting a certain way, it's usually going to tell me what you think about and how you are as a person. Yeah, there are actors, but usually those actors expose themselves over time. So, you know, you can tell the ones that aren't the longer you watch what they do and you interact and associate. And I find that amazing because most of the most racist white people, or racist people in general, most of them have never spent any prolonged period of time truly interacting with the race or the sect of people that they hate. At least not on a level enough to really validate their beliefs. What they do is they look for examples or situations that may validate their beliefs, and then they spout that. But when you really look at it, they never really spent no time. They never really, good faith, said, I can prove it by truly interacting with these people on a fair level to understand, am I really correct in my thought process? Because the ones that do, they stop being racist. Nearly all the people who are former racists, the reason they're not racist is because they took the time to truly interact with these people that they raced and saw as inferior or unworthy, and realized the only difference between themselves and the people they hated was a tone of skin. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, y'all are literally miserable. You're unhappy. You won and you're still unhappy. Your ideology will never bring about any level of peace and security for yourselves because you're not allowing other people to have peace and security. And if you make everyone your enemy, you just bring war to your door. Now I see y'all were smart enough to say, well, we can just start incorporating other people into this and making them white. But here's the thing though. Y'all can't really do that because your ideology will always turn around once you get what you want and turn those people into the enemy. And now you got a new enemy on your hands. And your worst enemy usually is the one that knows you the best. So, like, white people are really afraid of black folks. And I wouldn't say all, but the vast majority are. And I know white people are from my own personal experiences. I'm 6'2", 300 pounds, very muscular. Yeah, I got some fat on me. I'm not like a bodybuilder, but I am not weak by any means. I'm not bulletproof. I'm not the strongest man. There are people vastly stronger than me, uh, vastly fitter than me, vastly larger than me, and they come from all walks of life. But on an average, I am taller, stronger, and more physically capable than a lot of people. I don't see that as making me superior because there's a spectrum. I know many, many men, and I even know a couple women who are way stronger than me. So I don't use that as a way to perpetuate some superiority on other people because I understand there's a spectrum here. But I understand that my appearance, through those of my phone, creates fear in mostly white folks. Hell, it creates fear in some black folks. Why? Because I don't look like your friendly neighborhood Negro. I don't look like the model Negro. I don't got the I'm a friendly Negro haircut. I got a beard, which weirdly nowadays comes with connotations of misogyny and right wing things. And to be honest with you, I've wanted a beard my whole life. I used to be in an art academy in high school. I left because my two teachers were super racist and biased, and they actually ruined art for me for a long time. But that's a whole nother story for another day. I'll get into that. But long story short, they gave us an assignment to do a portrait, and they were like, you can draw yourself as you see yourself now, as you see yourself as you want to be, or future self, whatever. And I drew myself with a beard. I drew myself, I always had this scar, but I drew myself with a beard, as you see now. And at the time, I didn't have one because I was like 13. I wasn't old enough to grow a beard. And I'll be honest, I didn't really start growing a beard until I was in my 30s. It never grew out full enough. So it's been part of my identity for myself from a very young age. And not so much because it made me go, I'm a man now. It was more like I just always saw myself with facial hair, which is weird. I don't even know if I looked up to anyone who had a beard because back then, beards weren't in style like they were now. But for some reason, I always saw myself with one. Now I have one as part of me. It's how I identify as myself. But not so I can go and say, I'm a man. It's just what I look like. Now, I'm rambling right now. I apologize. I always go off on a tangent. I guess what I'm trying to say is the way I look does not conventionally convey either the safe black man to a lot of white folks or the non-threatening black man to a lot of black folks, even though I have no ill will to people in my day of life. When I get up in the morning, I'm not going out thinking about fucking people up. When I get up in the morning, I get up and go, I gotta go to work. I'm trying to make this money and I'm trying to better my life. Those are my thoughts. Figure out a way to make my life better. Figure out a way to find some love in this world because we all need it. You know, I want to find love. I want to find someone that I can appreciate truly and will truly appreciate me. And not because of material and monetary wealth, but because of my mind, my effort, and the things that are intangible that we bring to the table for one another, like compassion, understanding, caring, mutual interests, and values. Because guess what? Money will come and go, and beauty will always fade, but your loyalty and your integrity can last forever. So those are the things that really matter to me. Don't get me wrong. That doesn't mean I'm saying I won't date, that I'm only looking for women that are not attractive or whatever like that. Don't get me wrong. Beautiful is beautiful, whatever. But what I am saying is those are not the things that will lead me to be with that person. But again, I'm going in a tangent. All I'm trying to say is your fear isn't based on what I, as a black man, or any black man, is doing. Your fear is based upon the history that you keep repeating. Racist white people don't want to have fear anymore and want to feel free and able in this world. It's really easy to do. Just stop being racist. If you can understand and really grasp that your ideology of racial superiority, your ideology of racial purity and ethnic cleansing and all this shit is wrong, and understand that this world belongs to all people, and that in order for people to truly live a prosperous life, you have to make it fair for all people to have that ability to live that life, you will find that your life becomes exponentially better. Why? Because you will have allies. Civilization takes allyship to grow. All civilizations did. The reason we have gotten this far is through levels of cooperation. So the moment you start talking about one race is better than others and you're going to subjugate them, yeah, you may hold the top spot for a while, but it's not going to be forever. And if the only way you can be prosperous is to hold other people down, then you won't be as prosperous as you truly can be, and you will not stay prosperous forever. Because what you do is you build enemies. And no one stays under the boot of others forever. Yeah, y'all were really good at manipulating black folks, and y'all held us under your boot for many hundreds of years through slavery. Yes, there's been slavery all over the world, and this idea that white people were slaves is bullshit. And the only reason, and you know why it's bullshit? Because the only time y'all even talk about that shit is when other people are talking about how oppressed they were. If y'all were so concerned about that threat of white slavery, y'all wouldn't wait for black people to bring up the shit y'all actually did to bring it up. Y'all be talking about that shit all the fucking time. And nothing against Jewish folks, but let's just be honest. As evil as Hitler was, he wasn't the worst. He didn't kill as many people as some Belgian dictators did in Africa. Hell, some of the people dying right now in Palestine, the numbers are greater than some of the Jewish people that died in the Holocaust. And what's wild is, it's Jewish people doing it. So you mean to tell me you experienced genocide, you experienced ethnic cleansing and racial division. You go out here, you take someone else's land like it was done to you and perpetuate the same thing on to them that was done to you, and want to see him as a moral superiority, a religious superiority. Make it make sense. Please. It don't. And it's crazy because it's not even like you're going after the people who oppressed you. You're going after people who had nothing to do with your oppression. And I'm not saying that everyone is innocent. We get it. I understand. I mean, there's a lot of rhetoric going on online of the discourse with, Muslims and black people. And yeah, there are Muslims who perpetuate racism too. But that just leads more to my point. The reason that we have so much war, so much inequality, so much poverty, not just amongst minorities, but amongst white people, is because of that ideology of white superiority, white supremacy. And it's fueled by greed. Or I should say, greed is not the benefactor or the, what is it called? The host or the sponsor of racism. If greed wasn't allowed to have the power that it has, white supremacy wouldn't have the power that it has. Think about it. Just follow the money. Wherever that money goes, white supremacy is not that far behind. Just ain't. Right? And you don't got to take my word for it. Just look at it. Just look it up. It's everywhere. America's the richest country on the planet, with some of the worst amounts of financial and racial inequality of any of the developing countries in the world. America's responsible for more oppression than England in some ways, because what happened was, when England colonized the world and America took its freedom, America took up the mantle of colonizing the world after World War II. All in the name of profit and money. And the way they justify that is to white supremacy. Now, what's interesting is, places like Japan and other places, they weren't really white supremacists, but they had classism. You had the like in Japan, you had your shoguns and your emperors and the peasants. Now they're very homogenous, so there was no black or white. It was rich and poor. But that shit lends itself so well to racism because now it's easier to put someone down because they don't look like you. Right? All in the sake of profit. Here's a new target to exploit for power and control. And what y'all don't realize is happening to you is you are not the benefactors of this game. You are the pawns of this game. That blue collar white supremacist that's the manager at a supermarket or foreman at a shop or runs his little business or just works a 9 to 5 is not going to inherit the wealth of his other white counterparts by perpetuating this idea. He's going to, or she is going to stay broke. You're a pawn. You're the buffer between the bottom and the top. Some of y'all know that and you're fine with it, and some of y'all don't know that. Some of y'all believe that by pushing this agenda, by wholesale believing in this idea, that somehow they're gonna look at you and be like, we need to raise them up too, and just give them money and make them wealthy. And I'm like, before racism existed, there was classism. Kings were not just making peasants wealthy. Queens were not just making peasants wealthy. They were sending y'all to war to fight and die for them to maintain their wealth. They weren't even allowing their family members to sleep outside of the family. Hence why a lot of monarchies had a lot of inbreeding problems because of that pure blood agenda, that pure blood idea. Keep it in the family. We can't let the common rabble make it to the top. And now they're doing it to y'all again. It's just sad because you can't see how you're being used to perpetuate a system that sees you the way you want to see minorities. And I say minorities because y'all don't see us as anything else. I need y'all to understand that. That rich white person that's telling you you're right in this ideology is not your friend. You're a pawn to him. You're a tool. You're a means to an end. If you want to stop being used, you got to stop listening to that ideology. Because guess what? If you go ahead and you go, okay, we're going to get rid of that rich dude, but we're going to hold that ideology, you leave the door open for the next wealthy, white, greedy person to come into your circle of influence and do the same thing to you. And you probably won't see it till it's too late, if you see it at all. I was like, this is sad. We live in a world now where we have the money, we have the technology, we have the intelligence to literally make it better for every single person on this planet, no matter their intelligence level, no matter their background, no matter where they live. The only people who don't deserve it to be better are those who don't want it to be better for everyone else. And yet still, because we're easily manipulated by the device I'm holding in my hand, the control of information, and people that want to maintain their power, we can't seem to get it right. Now, a lot of people are fighting for this. A lot of people are working very hard to make it better. I would say myself included, but I'm not in any position of political power to do anything. So what I'm doing is just talking. I'm calling it out. I'm making these videos. Even though nobody's really watching them yet, it's what I do. And in my daily life, I speak to it. I got some examples of what I'm facing and I'll bring up in other videos, but just know people out here want a better life for everyone. You can live a better life, but it's up to you to understand what's holding you back. And it isn't the black or brown dude. It's that other white dude with all the money that's telling you he's your friend. And you want to know how he's not your friend? Because you ain't getting no money off him. Your life ain't getting better because of him. I was like, think about it. All y'all MAGA supporters, all y'all racists, there's no law keeping y'all where you are. It's your thoughts that are keeping you where you are. Because you hate on minorities for moving to big cities to find a better life. Nothing's keeping y'all from doing the same. But your choice not to. And then you blame them for making more money than you, when in reality they're not. They're struggling like you are. They're literally doing what they can to make life better for themselves, which you can too. And if you actually realize that if you partnered with these people in good faith, if you stopped trying to use the supremacy ideology as a way to govern, and actually use a system where if a person is truly a good person, truly a person who's going to benefit the world and uplift those people, that your life will become exponentially better, you'd be fine. And I think some of y'all know that, but it's so ingrained to you, you don't even want to see it happen for yourself unless it comes by the way of another white person. And it's like, you ain't gonna get there that way. Because the person you're going to pick isn't someone who truly is going to try to make things better for you. It's the person who's going to tell you your ideology's right, and that's why we're going to make it better for you. And point proof, the people you helped elect into this country are now telling you, hey, no, we need to bring in other people that helped build this country. And I find that amazing because we already know how much black people and brown people have contributed to building this country and have not been rewarded for it. And now you're going to bring in some other brown people and do the same. Now, yeah, they're going to make a little bit more money because the field that they're bringing them into pays out a lot more. But they're not going to make the money that their white counterparts are going to make. And they're still coming in under a type of servitude. H-1B visas. That has to be renewed every so often. And you only come in to work under the company that sponsored you on that visa. So it's like, you can't come in and be like, I'll just leave, because if you leave, that means you're going back home to where you ain't got no opportunities. You're an indentured servant coming in under that. Right? It's still under the guise of, if it makes me more money, I'll do it. I ain't even mad at y'all, because to be mad at y'all would be lacking understanding what's really happening. And I only feel sad a little bit for y'all and sorry. There's a pity. And the reason is because, yeah, I may die earlier because I'm black. Y'all may come and get me. I may get killed, or people like me may die early. But you don't get it. That takes us out the game earlier. It's essentially a win. Yeah, we may not go out how we want. It may be brutal. It may suck. But we're out the game. Death is the end of suffering. You only suffer when you're alive. And what y'all think is, you ain't gonna suffer. But you don't realize the world of suffering you will incur. And it ain't gonna be some biblical deity. It's yourselves that are going to do it. Because what do you do with all that hate if you achieve the goal that you've been perpetuating that hate to do? You think it's just going to go away? It's going to find something new to hate on. So what you going to do, hate on all the brunettes? Because they're not white enough? Because they don't have blonde hair and blue eyes? You going to wipe out all the white people that aren't blonde and blue-eyed? Okay. So you get rid of all the non-blonde hair, blue-eyed white people. Now what? What if you're not a certain height? You gonna get rid of all of them? I mean, think about it. This is what Hitler was pushing. You know where Hitler got his ideas? White America. The Nazi Party became the Nazi Party because it studied Jim Crow and slavery tactics that white America perpetuated on its slaves throughout history. They were amazed at the diabolical ingeniousness of the laws that were passed by Americans to oppress minorities in the country, and it informed them on how they should conduct themselves in treating Jewish people who just so happen to look like them but were racially different, or religiously different, sorry. And it's funny because they were all about blonde hair, blue eye was a superior race, and I'm like, many Germans were blonde hair or blue eyed and fought to uphold this ideology, and I was like, so what do you think happens if you win? What, you just gonna dye your hair and change wear contacts? I don't even think, I mean, you could dye your hair back then, but were contacts good enough for that? Were you able to change your blue color? I was like, what happens when one falls out? What happens if you gotta renew them and you gotta take them out in front of your naturally blonde hair and blue eyed people? Do you become the new N-word because you ain't got blonde hair and blue eyes? But if you ain't a certain height, we all know, I mean, I don't say we all know. I would say the idea of superiority is also in height. If you're a certain height, if you're over 6 foot, that's seen as superior. What if you're not height? What if you're not above 6 foot? I was like, listen, I don't gotta lie about it. I was fortunately born 6'2". And the crazy part is, I tell people that, and people are like, no, you've gotta be taller. You're like 6'4". And I'm like, why the fuck do I need to lie about this? I was like, I don't have to lie about my height because I really am that height. People still want to be like, you're taller. I'm 6'2". And I'm like, you're definitely not. Because I get weighed and I get my height checked almost 2-3 times a year because I get physicals all the time. I care about my health. I get checked up all the time because I've had other health complications. So I know my height and my weight. I don't gotta make it up. It's literally medically documented. So I'm just saying, where does the rabbit hole end for y'all? Because you gotta understand that this ideology, if it is successful, literally only means the end of you as well. Because once you kill off everyone that you see on the outside, you don't turn that hate off. All it does is look for something new to hate. And if everybody's white, well, then it comes down to what type of white. So who's gonna be the dominant white? The brunettes or the blondes? We already know y'all hate the redheads. And I'm like, for what? Why y'all hate redheads so much? Right? So it's only gonna be if you're brunette white people with brown eyes, which is the dominant trait amongst all humans, is to have dark colored hair and brown eyes? Or is it gonna be the people who have blonde hair and blue eyes? Right? What do you do about those black people who are naturally born with blue eyes and blonde hair? Now, there's a small group of them, don't get me wrong. But what about those black, with the skin tone? That's all I'm saying, man. If you cannot see the ridiculousness of this thought process and pattern, you don't understand that all you're doing is prolonging your own demise by destroying everything else. Now, I've been all over the place with this. I'm sorry, that's just how I think. My mind has all these different thoughts. I'm trying to collect them. And I don't want to be super structured just yet because I don't feel like I would be as honest about my thoughts on these things if I was. So that is why I am talking in this manner. I'm I'm sorry if it's confusing. I'm still working at speaking on camera. This is a learning process for me, and being not only honest about things, but trying to put a coherent argument, not even an argument, just I would just say just trying to be straight up about these thoughts. Things that are real that I think people are overlooking. Things that make sense that I think people are overlooking because they're too caught up in certain things. But I'll leave you with that question again. Are y'all not tired? Is this not exhausting for y'all? Because all you have to do is to let go, and you'll find some peace. Now, I get it, that's hard to do. Some of y'all have built your whole ideologies of self around this belief system, and the thought of something different is more scary than the thought of doubling down on your own demise by holding on to this agenda. So I know it's going to take a lot, but I will implore you again, just ask yourself some simple questions. Am I truly happy? Am I truly satisfied? And will me believing this ultimately, if I take it down its logical path, bring me to where I want to be? Now, I'm going to say no because I've thought this through a lot. Many other people have thought this through a lot, and we know it ain't. But it's clear that y'all haven't. And if you're really honest with yourselves, you should probably do that. Doesn't mean you might not come to the conclusion that it will, but I feel like if you haven't really taken the time to think about that, you know what you're believing is truly true, or you just believe it because it told you. And I get it. There's some social currency in being a racist, because at least among one group of people, you will be praised, loved, embraced, and held up for living in that same ideology. But just because people love you for something doesn't mean you're doing the right thing. Case in point, 13 armed officers beat a handcuffed, defenseless man to death. And people watched and smiled on the side. And I guarantee you, if these men get brought to jail or get brought in front of a judge or held accountable for their crimes, they're going to be the first ones to cry, well, I didn't do anything. I was just there. But guess what? Your inaction was action. Your inaction is proof of your guilt. Because you watched someone being treated inhumanely. You watched someone being murdered unjustly. You watched someone being beat and tortured to death, and you smiled at it. You're worse than the people actually permitting the act. That's something to think about. To the black folks out there, all black folks, but to black folks out there who I think similar to me. I don't want to say think like me. I think everyone has their own thoughts, and I'm not necessarily trying to elicit some type of new movement of everyone's got to think like me. I just think that some people naturally come to these logical conclusions and think along the same lines if they've ever taken any time to contemplate these things and the weight of them. I encourage you to also speak up. The more of us speaking up, the further we'll get with this change. Now, I know it's dangerous. I know our livelihoods are at stake. Our lives are at stake. Especially now, Congress was sworn in a couple hours ago. So we are officially in the MAGA America. We are officially in Trump's America. How bad it will get, I think that comes down to two things. How destructive the infighting is within the Republican community, the MAGA community, and the alt-right community. If that fighting continues to grow, it will destroy itself from the inside. But also, how organized and committed the left, or not, I won't even want to say the left. I just want to say, because I don't honestly think the left represents equality either anymore, or equity or fairness anymore. I think the left is just the other side of that coin that the right is on. So I'll say, not even just black people, humans in general who believe that the right way forward is to end oppression, to end greed, to create equity and opportunity for everyone evenly. What will matter is if we can organize and come together and make agendas and push legislation and movements that will bring about betterment for everyone. And I say it's important for us to do it because we're probably going to have to carry some of these racists kicking and screaming into that future. And once they get there, that's when they'll realize, hey, things aren't that bad. But if we can't create that, they're not going to see that, and they're not going to believe it. So I think those are the two most important factors. And it's on us to do so. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know how anyone's going to do it. All I can say is we need to do it. It's important that we do it. The future of the children that we have, the children that we want to have, is in the balance. If you're a white person that truly believes yourself to not be racist, and you want your child to be raised in a world that is truly good for them, now's the time for you to not sit quietly by, but to stand up. Black folks, we already doing it. But I also know that we're tired. We are divided because we have been allowed to be divided by some people in our community who are funded by people not in our community, and people that have been jaded by our community. So what I'll say to us is, we need to continue to stand up, but we also need to look into our own communities and recognize the problems there that we are allowing to create division amongst ourselves. We will not all ever see everything eye to eye, but there has to be a level of consensus for us to work cooperatively and to achieve what's really important for us to survive. Men and women, light to dark. We need to stop with the light skin brother, dark skin brother shit. We need to stop, or women shit. We need to stop with the men against women shit. And I think that's the craziest thing amongst the black community, because we all share in a collective history of oppression, and somehow we've turned that into trying to oppress each other along gender lines and economic lines. And some of us become no better than the people that we've been fighting against for equality and our freedom and fairness in this country. Because, yeah, we've been hurt by our own. And I hope that in this year, 2025, with everything coming at us, that we really get it together. We really understand what we need to do, that we need to heal ourselves. We need to apologize. And I think that's the problem. We don't want to apologize for our hands in the negatives that we've spewed to each other. Black men trying to live like white men and hold down white women. Black women trying to live the white woman level of feminism and oppress black men. Hating black people because they're not as dark as you or as light as you. Black people hating black people because they don't talk like you or dress like you. we're not monolithic people, but we do share collectively that if you're black and you are in America, you will face some level of bigotry and oppression. Now, some of us, and I would say some because it's a very small amount of black folks, who've been fortunate enough to come up experiencing little to none of it. And they are the ones who get the rudest awakening, because it's not like they didn't experience it. It was because it was such slights that it didn't register for them. They didn't get harassed by police. They didn't have to fight off several white aggressors. They weren't ever racially profiled. You know, they were microaggressions and they just took it as not anything. And for a lot of them, they don't believe it exists until it really happens to them. Some of us, namely, I'll give you the most popular, Candace Owens, and I'm gonna be honest, bro, I don't follow a lot of her shit like that, and I'm not really out trying to cancel her like that. I think there's many people doing that. I'm just using hers because she is the most well-recognized version of this, and that is she is a black woman who's experienced racism and is now a mouthpiece for it. I honestly believe in her mind, I think she thinks she is doing what's right for black America, but I also think that in some diluted way, she is damaged, and because she didn't feel like she got enough support from the black community, she'd rather watch it burn. Like that old saying, the child, it takes a child to raise a village, and it takes a village to raise a child, and if, that child doesn't receive enough love, they'll return to the village and burn it down just to feel its warmth. I think that's what Candace Owens is. I think that's what, what's his name? He's a pretty prominent, Charleston White is. The brother was an activist. His approach wasn't the most well received, but his message was definitely for the betterment of black people. And because he was ostracized not only by his own community first, but also shit on by white folks, he is now the things he hated the most. He became the things that he hated the most. The trash talking mouthpiece on the internet, only out for money. Now, he still every once in a while will throw in some nuggets of truth and some nuggets of clarity, but I think he's gotten to a point where he is so hurt and jaded. This is all the man does. Now, I can't really judge him. He's making more money than me. I'm just giving an observation. I'm a nobody on the internet. I'm just starting out. And I'm not here to interfere with his money. But I will say that if you want to consider yourself conscious enough to make decisions for yourself, as far as black folks are concerned, these are examples of what not to do. These are cautionary tales in how things can go wrong for you if you don't approach them correctly, if we don't recognize collectively what's at stake for us. Right? But yeah. I love y'all. I know I'm all over the place. I'm always going to be all over the place. That's human nature. As humans, we're all over the place. But if anybody does watch or eventually watch, thank you. Please comment, like, subscribe. If you have thoughts, you want to hate me, you want to love me, you can tell me in the comments, man. I am doing this partly to make money, but that is not... And the reason I say that is because I don't believe I would be honest in telling you it's solely for being truthful about things. The reality is, I want to make money, but I want to make money being honest. I want to make money being true. I want to make money being myself. I want to make money talking about things or doing things that I feel matter to me and are beneficial. If I find myself selling out in any way, in that sense, I'm most likely going to stop. Now, I know that may be hard to believe, and it's easy for me to say because, let's be honest, I ain't making no money on it right now. So, there's nothing for me to lose because I've gained nothing from it. If anything, I've put myself at more risk because I'm giving you an unfiltered version of myself. I leave myself open for criticism and ridicule. I leave myself open for people to bring in counter arguments that may be better than my argument. But I still felt if I'm going to do it, the best way to do it is to be me. The imperfect, a little bit messy, all over the place version of myself, which is truly me. You know, how I think, what I feel. I was like, it may never bring me any money, but at the end of the day, I know I have integrity because I didn't lie to get the money. I didn't falsify my beliefs. I didn't falsify my words. I didn't sell an idea that I didn't truly believe in if it does bring me some level of success. So whether y'all watch this or not, thank you. I love you. Have a great day. I hope that 2025, even though it starts out bleak and even though this year seems like it's going to be the start of some fucking crazy shit for the rest of us, or for most of us, that it's not. That things that you want to happen in your life that are really good do happen. I hope that you find the peace that you're looking for, the love that you're looking for, the success that you're looking for, the lifestyle that you're looking for. I hope that you find the joy that you're looking for, because I think a lot of people just want to be happy, and a lot of people aren't. So above all else, I hope that you find the happiness, the joy, and the peace that you're looking for, because Lord knows I'm looking for it too. We all are. Have a good one.